How's everyone doing?
Fine. I'm great.
You're great? Great? Small crowd, huh? Small crowd this evening. First of all, anyone who said thank you or sent me wishes yesterday on Facebook, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I had asked a while ago what people were interested in talking about, and I did get a list of things. And first of all, is this the first time for anybody here today? First time? First time? First time?
First time.
So 3 Jewel, first time? All right, well, you picked a great day. Anyway, so the question was that I asked on Facebook was, you know, what was of interest for people, and I did get quite a bit of stuff. And if you know how I operate, I really don't prepare all that much, so, you know, I just kind of come and wing it. Usually I'm either inspired by something or whatever the case is. But today I thought that I would just actually take the list and I would deal with them immediately, because I thought it was kind of good. Did anybody post an idea? All right, so then I'm going to probably hit it. But before I wanted to do that, I thought I would, you know, I mean, you know, for some of you have only been around for so long, but I've been doing this for 30 years now. And a lot of times people ask me this question. You know, a lot of people have a tendency to, you know, they respect some of my ideas and the thoughts that I have.
Sorry, I'm just...
Okay, that's okay. And I just thought maybe I would explain to you how I come about my opinions, because I think it might be helpful. It kind of goes with some of the questions here as well. I'm not a knowledge base on everything. You know, I mean, I have spent 30 years doing this, and I have spoken to a lot of people, and that's probably where a lot of my experience comes from. To be honest with you, is because you know, when you speak with people year after year, and not hundreds but thousands and thousands, you start to hear everybody's story. And not only that, but not only listening to those stories, but actually experiencing them. A lot of the things that you go through, or a lot of things that people were, you know, addressing here, issues and struggles and so on and so forth. It comes across kind of easy for me to give an answer, but the truth is that I've had to experience it myself. And a lot of the things, you know, whether it's personal, you know, I mean, everyone's success, you know, like, I mean, I read things like, how do I start? How do I get motivated? You know, how do I, you know, stay encouraged? How do I do the right thing? You know, how do I make the right decisions? You know, how do I, you know, how do I be a better parent? You know, or you know, what's perseverance? You know, how do I persevere? There's no real perfect answer. It's interesting enough that a lot of this stuff comes by experience. And yesterday I turned 49. That gives me lots of, you know, experience. So I look at today, I look 55 for sure. But you know, I mean, life in itself gives you the most experience that you can have. All right, and you know, one of the things I said in one of my, see, this is what it's like when you're just talking off the top of your head, because I'm not even prepared. One of the things I said in one of my videos was, you know, life is like the stone that sharpens the knife, which means in reality that all the hardships that you have and all the experiences that you have ultimately shape your thought processes. They build you your character. They give you all the tools necessary in the end to be able to answer your own questions. You know, so really what it comes down to is experience, and that's something that you're all going to go through. And sometimes I guess it's nice to have somebody to support you in that, or give you a little bit of their own, you know, experience. And sometimes that's one of the nicest things that you can get, is someone can say to you, listen, I appreciate your story because I've been through it before, and I can relate. I think that's actually what, you know, from growing up, that's one of the most important experiences, is that somebody can relate. Lots of kids. For myself, when I was younger, I'll just give you some information. When I was younger, I was, you know, when I was 5. I'll let you come in. When I was 5 years old, I got diagnosed as being believe it or not, I got diagnosed as being handicapped. And when I was 5 years old, they called it much different, which was when I was 5 years old, honestly, they called it retarded. So that was the name for it. So they took me to a special a therapist, and he said, dude, he's retarded. So, you know, and so then I got shipped off to a funny school. And, you know, we live a little bit different, but they would still notice it here too, like, you know, a big bus, which was sort of like a funny bus, because they called it a funny bus, to be honest with you as well. Because when they call you retarded, then they have no problem calling you every kind of name possible. So the bus that came by was like an Easter seal bus, that's what it was, and it was a charity bus from, like, you know, when you do like Strina, they do these charity drives and they make this bus, and it was called the Easter seal bus. So I showed up to my neighborhood, and everyone in the neighborhood, of course, saw this funny bus show up, which meant that I was retarded, and I was shipped off to school for a year. And interesting enough, in doing these things, it was only because of my character that people, you know, suggested that I was retarded. And one of the character flaws that I had was that I talked a lot, as if you didn't know. And also that I asked a lot of questions, lots of questions. And not that I just asked questions, but for a 5-year-old, I argued. So I used to debate the question. Because, and I did, I got into arguments, especially if it didn't appear right. So, for example, if somebody said, don't do this because of this, and then they contradicted themselves later on, and I still got myself into trouble. To me, it was a contradiction, and I was able enough to identify that. And so I was labeled as retarded. I went to this funny school, which of course was humiliating, to say the least, and I was held back from regular school and so on and so forth. Now, where I'm going with that is that all the way through my life, that was a stigma that was attached, not only to myself, but anyone who actually knew me, because, you know, it's like having a criminal record. They say, well, you're a criminal. Not necessarily. And I'm not retarded either, not necessarily. I could be, but I don't think so. And so I was put into seeing psychotherapists, or I don't know what we call them here, but therapists, and whatever the case was. And oddly enough, a lot of therapists know a lot about reading books. They experience reading books. They can identify certain flaws in the character because of what chapter 6 in this book says. But they don't necessarily understand the human being in front of them, because they never related to them ever, because they never had those issues in the first place. I'm sure the psychotherapist wasn't called retarded and sent off to a funny school and had to, you know, go through the humiliation of being trucked off in front of everybody else. And I'm sure they didn't experience lots of different things as well. And my point is that a lot of times the experiences that you go through, professionals will not misdiagnose you. They will suggest things to you that are not relevant or real, because they themselves have never experienced what it is that you're going through. This is the stone that sharpens the knife. When it comes to perseverance, I know only to tell you about it from my own personal experience. When it comes to never giving up, I can only tell you what I know from my own personal experience. What I, it's a shitty day. What I know about failing, I can only tell you from my own experience. But I can also tell you why it's important not to give up. And so, as I said, I'm not a master at understanding everything, but I have been through pretty much more in my lifetime than most people have. And that I spent my life choosing to do my best to empower other people to get over their struggles. Anyway, that being said, that's where my experience comes from. So by no means do you need to listen to me.
John,
Yes.
one of the main questions that comes up is, when you are passing through a struggle, how do you deal with, eating? Because sometimes we overeat and some don't eat. How does a person deal with eating time?
Well, I guess it's a good question. I guess in the very end of it all, it comes down to how much you value your own life. It comes down to how you value your existence in this life, and if you actually relate to your life at all. Because when you don't really give two shits about who you are, then you do exactly the worst thing for you, because you feel that you're not worth nothing and that you have no value. So why should you actually value the life that you have? So why should you bother eating? Why should you take care of yourself? And most people have the tendency to feel like that, and it's much easier to give up than just to continue, because we somehow believe that we're not good enough. When you're going through a struggle, it's the hardest time to stay motivated and focused, but when you're going through the hardest time, one of the things that will keep you together is maintaining a structure even when you have a very difficult time in doing so. There are times when, for example, if you want to cross the river, you would shoot your line to the other side and anchor it to the other side. You would tie it around your waist or to the boat that you're in. And on a clear day, it's not the problem. You just keep going towards that direction. But a foggy day will roll in, which will completely cloud your judgment, and it'll make you feel lost and insecure where you're going. You may feel like you're going in circles, but the only thing that you need to do at that point in time is to put your hands out and grab that rope, because you know for sure when you set it, it was set in the right direction. So you can actually be blinded, but still stay consistent to the path and still find your way through that cloud. When you are in struggles, you have to maintain your integrity to your goals and your desires and your dreams, because if you slip on them and you let yourself go, it's not going to be something that is going to be easy to overcome. You're going to slip twice as hard and twice as far, and you're going to hit yourself even much harder than you would have if you just keep going, or at least keep trying to go forward and don't make any progress at all. No one wants to feel good. No one will feel good when they give up. No one will feel good about themselves when they turn their back on themselves or anybody. The worst is to turn your back on yourself. It is a horrible realization. It happens far too often. People give up on themselves much before they give up on everybody else. They feel that they're entitled to give up on themselves because they were raised to be there for everyone else, and so it's not a second thought to just walk away from themselves. As long as they don't walk away from other people, they will value everyone else before they value themselves. And in that respect, that is the first thing that one needs to do, in my opinion. It is probably reconciling every morning your purpose, what you're trying to accomplish. Having a conversation with yourself and realizing your own value. If you don't have that value established in who you are, then it's a little bit of a difficult situation, because you won't be able to convince yourself otherwise. So you have to believe in yourself. That might be easier said than done. But I think that's something that I couldn't even tell you how to tell you to believe in yourself. That's something that's intrinsic in yourself. You have to give your life credit in that respect. So I think that was actually the question. One of them was, everyone struggles and goes through hard times. How to recover to be successful? I guess just the simple fact is that you keep walking forward even through the struggles. Even if you don't make any advancements, you are advancing. If you don't give up. That's the hardest part. The easiest part is to give up, and the hardest part is to keep going when you want to give up. That's life. It throws that at you constantly. It's almost like, you sit back and you say, a lot of people do this. Why me? Or they say, is life out to get me? Why is this happening? So we ask those questions a lot. And then we sort of get into, a situation where we maybe believe in the, lies. We start believing all the negative stuff that people say, the things that we've heard. We look at ourselves in a negative, and we start going in the wrong direction. If you're going to do that, you're going to wake up one day. You're going to wake up and come to realize that you've fallen a long way, and it's going to be twice the effort to get back on. So I think when you are struggling like that, I think try not to recover at all. Try not to fall. Do your best. If you need to, grab support around you to help you, that's probably the best thing. I know that for myself, when I feel like I'm going to crash, which can happen, I will go to someone that I believe in, that supports me and that wants the best for me. It's not a lot of people, but when I find that person, I will share and trust that what they're saying is for the better of myself, and that's usually how it will work. You will find that one person. Question: fat weight against weight. Very difficult to explain this around time and give ourselves time. You want to explain to me the question? Totally.
Because people don't understand when you say, I lost 4 kilos of fat and 1 kilo of weight.
Okay. You want to
And
understand
about
that?
time, yes, I do understand that. But I'm sometimes I find myself not so sure. Am I doing the right thing? And about time, I always hear you saying and repeating, give yourself time, give yourself time.
How much time?
How much time?
Till you die.
Sorry?
Till you die.
Till I die, that's it. I know.
Don't ever quit.
But then we see posts on Facebook like saying I lost 16 kilos.
But you can't compare. Who here has the same life?
And then you get like a bit.
That's because you're looking at the wrong thing. Who here has the same life?
No.
Who here tries like everyone? You can all stand up and say that you try as hard as this other person. You can see a picture of Melanie the other day. She's in the gray dress, I put it up. It's a big picture I put up. Before and after, 12 weeks, what a transformation. And people say, wow, how did you do that, so on and so forth. And she said, just, 5 days a week in the gym and eating. It's not 5 days in the gym and eating. It's a simplified version of the truth. The truth is that not everybody wants things as bad as somebody else. Everyone says they want it that way. Everyone has an idea what it is that they want to achieve. But not everyone is willing to do the work. Not everyone is willing to sacrifice like everyone else. You cannot compare, first of all. And not everybody's body responds the same way. Not everybody has genetics to see someone just turn around like that. Not everyone has a thyroid that is actively working like somebody else's. You're all sitting in the same room as I am. I'm soaked. What am I doing? Running around, jumping? This is a metabolism that is on fire. All right? So I'm cooking. And that's my metabolism, but not every 49-year-old is cooking like me, because they don't have my lifestyle, they don't have the way I live, they don't have my dedication, they don't have the things that I am. All the things that make me me is so completely unique and different to every single one of you. So you cannot compare and say, she did it, so should I. No one has the same bone structure, no one has the same life story, no one has the same abuse in their background. Somebody who was abused by their uncle, let's say for example, might walk out of the situation with such fire to prove that there was something in life and they'd become great. Someone else with the same experience will walk out of life and do nothing. Because what motivates one person doesn't motivate another. Do you understand what I'm saying? So don't ever look at a picture and ever say, how come she can and I can't? And you can sit there and say, not you, but anyone can sit there and say, are you hot now? Are you warm?
Yes.
You can't sit there and, you really just cannot sit there and compare your life or your story or nothing to anyone. But you do have to make 100% effort. You got to do the very best that you can do. You've got to sacrifice.
That's nice.
You have to sacrifice. Yeah, and that's what it happens. And the mindset is probably the most important aspect of all of this. The mind is what makes people accomplish everything and what makes people lose. What makes the difference? What's the difference between one person going from a disastrous upbringing to leading the country to somebody else who had a fantastic upbringing who's a drug addict on the street? Or someone who had a horrible, disastrous upbringing who's a drug addict and an alcoholic, just like everyone would have expected? What's the difference? What's the difference in all these people? This is nothing. This image is nothing. The day I die, this image is gone. I saw my dad in a coffin. He used to be a bodybuilder. As soon as he was dead, he looked like he was about this big. This is gone. This is nothing to this. This is not something to hold on to. This is what's all is right here. This is where your life is at in your head. And when you can master your mind, master the power that you have in yourself, then you can change. Then you can change, not because you want to change, but more because you know you will change. I know for a fact, and so do you, that if I plant a seed I don't know what these trees are called, but who cares? I plant a seed. You know it's going to grow into a tree, right? You don't doubt that for a moment. You know why you don't doubt it? Because you've seen it all your life. The question is this: if I plant a seed, a tree in front of you, you know it's going to grow. So does it grow because you have faith, or do you have faith because it grew? Answer the question. You don't know. Because you so assume that it's going to grow. How do you know that's not faith? How do you know if you say that tree won't grow and you believe that it won't grow? You understand what I'm saying? Does the tree grow because you have faith? Because everyone knows it'll grow. So is that your faith making it grow? If you say, I'm going to change, do you change because you said so? Or do you believe that you'll change because you changed? You've got to believe. You know, you have to make it happen. You can't say, I wish or I hope. There's no hoping. It's a joke. I'll tell you what I hope for. I hope right now that somebody throws €1 million through the window and it falls in my feet. I hope. I hope. And I hope lots of other things as well, but they're not happening. Because hoping isn't going to make it happen. So you're going to have to do something about it. You can't sit back and rest on your laurels and just hope and wish and pray, and then God is the master of all creation. Because everyone has certain views on that. But if God is the master of all creations, did He not give every single one of you freedom of choice? Meaning, in the end, that if you have the power to choose, you take it or don't take it. It's not God making you take this, it's you. Eat this or don't. Is it God? You trip into that wall. Is it your fault or God's fault? Everyone blames God at the very end of it all. In the very end, it's God's fault. God, what God did to me. Whenever you get pissed off, where's God in all of this? God. What's God got to do with it? If God gave you a life, He gave you power and you with breath to do whatever you wanted to do. So then in the very end of it all, it's your responsibility to take the challenge and lift it up and walk. You've got to carry the cross, so to speak. And the difference between weight and fat weight, significant. You're made of 4 things: bones, water, muscle, and fat. So am I. So is everyone. Say I weigh 100, I don't weigh right now, but that's pretty close. Let's say I weigh 120 kilos, and I lose 5 kilos. Well, how do you know what I lost? Well, I don't know what I lost. I would know what I lost, because if I lost any weight and I started to get more leaner and I started to see the stuff underneath, the fat, then I know I'm losing fat. If you're losing weight for the sake of losing weight, well then losing weight could be a combination of all 4 things: bone, water, muscle, and fat. Bone, really? Well, you couldn't lose bone density if you're not active. You're sitting around doing nothing. Your bones will start to become less active over time, or not less active, less dense over time. Over around 6 months, you'll notice that. They'll become more brittle and less strong. But when you're losing 3 kilos of fat, you have reduced size significantly compared to losing 3 kilos of muscle, because fat is a very volumized and very light entity in your body. So if a kilo of butter is this big, and that's 1 kilogram, 1 kilo of muscle, and that's fat, 1 kilo of muscle would be this big. It's much denser and heavier. So the volume that it takes is much less. That's why if I was 120 kilos and there was a 120 kilo fat person beside me who was 45% body fat, he'd have much bigger breasts than me, much bigger stomach than me, and a bigger butt than me, and take out more than 1 square than I would, because of fat size. So when you're losing weight, you most of all want to lose fat, because every single person, unfortunately, walking on the face of the earth, pretty much, is overweight and fat. How you know this to be true is that the percentages of people that are sicker now, or sick, and on medication, and having problems at an earlier rate, are all due to the fact that they're fat. Because fat is responsible for 92% of everyone's health issues. And in everything. Confidence, self-esteem, energy, reproductive systems. Fat, 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 fat. The sad thing is, which is really quite sad, because it is the truth, is that in our culture, human beings have no value. Value to me, I value you. I hope you value me. But I'm not sitting on top of you trying to make as much money as I possibly can out of your life. I'm not wishing you sick so I can make more money out of you. This country is this big. And 100 years ago, Mater Dei Hospital would have been, if it was there, this small. And in a mere 100 years, the hospital has grown, what, 1,000% with the same amount of people on the island? Why? Why has it grown so big? Any idea?
Because the population has increased in 100 years.
Really? How much? Go back and look at your history.
People are eating less.
That has nothing to do with population. It has to do with the amount of people that are sick in the population. Percentages of people 100 years ago were never as sick as they are today. All right? Production of food creates celiac and gluten issues. Lactose intolerance by the production of the food, the chemicals in the food, the preservatives. Read anything anymore, and you're seeing acid, this chemical, that left, right, and center. This is what's killing people. Spraying things on their foods, injecting animals so that they grow faster, is what's putting people in the hospital. And this also then tends to start shaping the mentality of people, because then you start becoming a very small nation that are half people sick and half are hypochondriacs, believing that they're sick. Always run to the hospital for a problem. Ooh, I got an issue. Ooh, I gotta go to the hospital. Parents, here, take an antibiotic right away for nothing. Unfortunately, that's the sad part. Is the world is the culture isn't for you. So these are the things that you ultimately won't learn or shouldn't learn, and they're not for you. And you keep sending me the information of people that keep getting found up dead because they're exposing the truth. As soon as you start exposing the truth to pharmaceutical companies who are making trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars off of the ignorance of people, you can only wake up so many people for so long before someone's going to knock you out of the way.
I remember one of the first things you told me in my first meeting that I had with you. You had told me that Mater Dei is the biggest hospital on the island.
No, I said it's the biggest hotel.
Hotel, sorry, hotel.
It is. It is.
Yes.
No one knows that, but it's the truth. So, losing the fat is key. It will save your life at the end. If you don't have an importance to your life, and you don't value your life enough, then you won't do what it takes to get that fat off of you. But if it's, I'll tell you right now, in my opinion, you need to get it off and get it off now. Marceline, who came here one time, she lost 45 kilos. You know what her doctor said to her when he saw her? Oh, slow down, what are you doing? It's so unsafe for you, take it easy. Really, slow it down. Well, no one's putting her on an accelerated plan. We didn't tie her behind the car and drag her down the street so that she had to keep up and run like 40 kilometers an hour to get the fat off. It didn't work like that. As a matter of fact, she's never even worked out a day in her life with us. All she did was walk and eat. Okay? She lost 45 kilos because the 45 kilos shouldn't have been on her in the first place, because that's not her structure, that's not her DNA, that's not her genetic makeup from the beginning. You understand? So the first thing he said was, slow down. It's not safe. Sorry, because I know you're working in the health profession, but it's irresponsible to say that to somebody. It's responsible to say, for example, to put warnings on the table saying, listen, it's quite possible that if you're doing it the incorrect way and you're losing weight the wrong way, that it's very unhealthy. What are you doing? Well, as a matter of fact, I'm eating 6 times a day. I'm eating about 2,500 calories a day, and I'm walking. Oh, okay. That's the end of the conversation. If you say, well, you know, I eat a yogurt every day and an apple and 1 banana, and I stick my finger down my throat right afterwards and take about 10 laxatives so I crap out my brains, that is the wrong way. You understand? So, you know, the people that are empowered to give you the right information should also be empowered to deliver that information with some knowledge behind it. Controlling stress during diet. I don't think issues. Controlling stress during diet. Well, I guess that's well, first of all, it's not a diet. That's the best thing we should probably learn, is that you're not dieting. We get rid of that. We get rid of that thought or that language, because in the end, dieting itself causes stress. Never used to, because in reality, a human being's diet is this, an animal's diet, a horse's diet is oats, you know, a pig's diet is mash, you know, and a human's diet is comprised of proteins, carbohydrates, so on and so forth. That's actually what the word really stands for. But diet, the word diet now has changed a lot, right? So when you diet, it in itself is stressful, right? So it breeds stress, because as soon as you start dieting, you start freaking out. Now you start looking at the weights. You got to make sure that things are changing. If the diet, if you're not losing weight, but you know, oh, you lost some weight, but you don't really know, and hey, my clothes are smaller, but I only lost like 1 kilo, what the hell's going on? I'm stressed out. Maybe, you know, controlling stress during dieting is maybe learning what you're actually doing. Because I think that when anybody gets stressed out, if, you know, I said, listen, if you walk down this road at the very end of it, Los Dome is there, would you be all stressed out with your walk? No, because you would know that the information is correct. So usually people stress out because they're not sure that what they're doing or the sacrifices they're making is going to get them where they want to go. True? Isn't that what causes stress? You expect something. You expect 10 kilos off as quick as like that, and it doesn't come, so you get stressed out. Time. We'll come back to the picture of that one. What does it matter about the weight as much as you're feeling healthier? Doesn't it feel good to actually be consistent in walking now when you weren't walking before? Don't you feel better by putting healthier foods in your body? Don't you feel more energy? Isn't that worth something too? Is it? No, Maria? You just said no. It's worth lots. It's worth a lot. The most valuable thing you can do is wake up in the morning with energy. It's not about waking up in the morning and seeing a different body in the mirror. It's waking up in the morning and doing the right thing, and then what ultimately comes from that process is something great. There's no real stress needed, so I don't know when people say, well, what do I do when I deal with stress because of the diet? And maybe, you know, there's the other side of things is that if you're feeling stress, because you're restricting, then you know you're restricting too much. Because in reality, you shouldn't be restricting really at all. Because the energy levels usually are up when you're eating enough. Your energy from natural foods will release lots of great feelings in your body, even endorphins, you know, you start to feel much better about it. I think a lot of people like to be stressed out, to be honest with you. I think it's part of their comfort zone. I think it's really difficult for people to actually wake up and feel really, really good and maintain that for a while without thinking that there's got to be a day soon that I'm going to feel really bad. Because they're used to living a certain way. You know what it feels like to not be healthy. You get used to that after a while. So, you know, it's kind of like being in a relationship where, you know, every once a week you're having a major fight all the time. After a while, you're always expecting the fight to come. And when the fight doesn't come, you start saying, it's been 7 days, it must be coming, and no fight. You go, oh my God, 8 days, something, and you're waiting for it. And then because it's not coming, you create it. Because you're used to running in a certain way. Rhythms work, you work well a certain way. So sometimes people feel they need to feel stressed to feel like they're doing something right.
But why is it that sometimes I'm experiencing it now? I'm not losing weight at the moment, nothing.
Okay, well, first of all,
And I get a bit stressed there like that, but okay, I'm eating healthy food.
how do you feel? How do you feel about, forget the weight, how do you feel?
A lot of energy.
So you feel a lot
I
of
feel
energy.
good.
Okay, so give me some positives. You feel energy, lots of energy? You said lots of energy. You didn't say little, you said a lot. There's something significant about that. It's like if I said I have a little bit of money or I have a lot is good. So you have lots of energy. You feel good? What else do you feel? Give me the good things. You feel more strength, you can stay up longer in the day,
Yes.
you get more chores done, you're sore when you do things anymore, you're feeling much more sort of flexible, you feel a little bit younger. You feel those things?
Yes.
What's the problem?
This case.
Back up, back up.
Believe me.
Yes,
it's
it
killing
is,
me.
back up. Back up.
I just told Dorina, she phoned me a bit late,
Yes, I get-
earlier, and she told me come.
I get that, what you're saying, but you just completely took something that is this much great to this small thing, and you made this over this. You're making one thing more important than the rest. If your family is healthy, Isn't that better than your family being rich? It's true, yeah, right? So you know that, there. And you have your health and you're energetic and you feel better than you felt before, but that's not good enough. You have to have the weight on the scale. You're making this more important than this. As soon as you do that, two things are going to happen. Number one is the mindset is going to shut you down. Because if I was a key to the master maker, let's say, and I said I give you the power to lose weight or not, I would make you stop right now. I wouldn't let you lose weight. Because you need to learn a lesson. And the lesson you need to learn is to value the most important thing in your life, which is your life, and stop worrying about the scale. Because God forbid anything happened to you and it affected you in an adverse way, and all of a sudden your whole sense of value and your whole sense of worth as an individual is based on a number on a scale rather than the other things you're talking about. Well, how does that even make any sense? I meet a person, I value you because you're 45 kilos. You're 80, get out of my life. I want nothing to do with you. You're nothing. Well, it doesn't even make any sense, but that's exactly what you're saying about yourself. So quick to judge yourself, so quick to be hard on yourself because the scale's not going down. Well, why would it go down if you're going to keep applying stress? Maybe you're increasing cortisol levels and your body's putting on the brakes because you're applying stress, so your body doesn't want to work normally anymore because you're applying stress. And then the more it doesn't work, you apply more and more stress, and so you now start going backwards. You start freaking out. So something so little, a little stupid seed has become a big problem for you now when it never was a problem because you were focused on the wrong thing rather than focusing on the right thing.
But you will think that you're doing something wrong. If this scale don't go down.
But why would you think that if you're learning?
We need to change.
You think the body, you think every single person is going to go like this? I can stop training, and I can either eat a lot or eat a little. I never lose to go below 105, 106 kilos, not in your life. I won't lose it because my chemistry has completely changed. So why would I lose the weight? I'm going to have to force it down. Maybe your body, and bodies do start to regulate. If you're born with a certain structure, the design is already that you should be this weight. But at this weight at 15 and you're now 50, things change as you go along. So you can't expect your body to go down to where you were and look at it as it was at 15, because your body composition and chemistry changes consistently every 7 years. It's always changing. But my point is that that's the stress that stops people from going forward. You have so many positives. This is nothing unlike anyone else. Because underneath all of this, there's a principle that has to be applied. But so many people will get all these positives shot at them in a day. Wow, you look good, thank you very much. You feel all these wonderful things, positive, positive, positive. And they're going into a bucket called positive. But the bucket is like a strainer. It's got 1,000 holes in it. So as everything goes in, you're saying at the end of the day, there's no positive, but you heard lots of stuff. You woke up, you're healthy, you jumped out of bed, you're feeling good, but there's no positive. But then you get a few negatives, 1, 2, 5, I don't care. But that bucket, forget having any holes in it, it's completely wrapped 1,000 times through, so you couldn't even make a hole in it. Then you look in there and you say, all right, it's not very good. You look at the two. Where's your perspective? On the negative? Not yours.
It seems we're set that way sometimes, John.
You set yourself that way.
I don't think it's a question of setting yourself. I think with women, all the friends that I have, they're all the same. Like I'm having a bad hair day, I don't like this.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
It seems we're set that way.
Why do you think that is? Well, in this country, if all of a sudden everyone's doing their nails, their fingernails, all different colors with sparkles and stuff on it, everyone goes and does it. Why? Why does that happen? Why does everyone start doing it? If this is a fad, why does everyone start doing it? Why? Because they gotta be in. They gotta be in the in crowd. They don't want to be in the out crowd. So you're saying, well, they all think this way. That's right. It's true. Negativity will bring negativity. It's exactly what will happen. Everyone starts talking about this. It creates a and everyone starts talking about it more and more. It starts to spread through, and it becomes the natural way of being.
Wouldn't it be the need to improve?
There's nothing wrong with trying to improve, but does it have to be negative? You have to improve by focusing on the negative?
But you have to look at the negative, John.
You have to understand that in reality, what negative? Actually, no, I disagree with that.
I mean, I can't look at the mirror and say that I'm not skinny, I'm fine.
Okay, but why is that a positive? Why can't you look at the mirror and say how wonderful you are? Why do you have to point out the obvious negative? Why do you have to find a negative?
It comes easy.
But why? Why?
I don't know.
Okay, but that isn't that you and yourself? Don't you live in your own home by yourself? Do you have to be influenced by everybody else? If I tell you that you're no good and I tell everybody here that they're no good, should what I say count? We're as a culture, you don't see that we're like that? Turn on the TV and tell me how many wonderful positive things you hear about in the first hour. No, at the very end they'll do a feel-good story maybe. Oh, look at this flower in the middle of a road that cars are going by. How wonderful and positive that is.
News are on, is it?
But it's not negative, it's not news only, it's everything.
But I think it's the way we were brought up.
It's not just
It's
the way it
what's
is
the
here.
media,
It is the culture that we live in on a global level. You're starting.
As human beings, you don't see, you know what I mean, John? You don't see your achievements all the time. You might sit and think about your achievements. I do.
Who are you hanging around with? Because I've never seen that. I've been an athlete all my life. All right? I've been an athlete all my life. And when I've hung around with athletes all my life, they're not sitting there moping, talking about the shit that's going down in their life. They're talking about how they did this or how they found this to cut 5 seconds off or do this. They're all talking about possibilities. You go to the Olympics and go hang out in the camps. You let me see how many people that are talking negative.
It's not, I don't agree with you. It's not negativity, John. It's realistic. It's being realistic.
Based on what? Based on what? What teachings? What you learned. That's what you're telling me. You're telling me that what you learned is not, so it's not negative, it's the way it is. Based on what? It's based on history? It's based on history?
No. It's what you actually see, what you feel, what you know.
But who puts that into your head? Who shows you that this is right or wrong? Where do we come to say this is right or this is wrong? What? You think, if you go to China and you see a woman who's got a nice tan, what do you think? If you go to China, you see an Asian woman with a nice tan, what do you think?
She's a beautiful lady.
Yeah, and in Asia they say that she's poor because she's working in the farms all the time. She's got no money. And that's the thinking. Now, if you see a woman in Asia, white as white can be, what do you say? Now you know what you say. She's rich. She lives an easy life. She's got all the parasols. There's no sun hits her. So they see it that way. You're saying you see it this way. Where's that coming from? So all of a sudden, cultures say, you're no good because you're brown, because you're poor, and you're great because I judge you immediately by looking at you. I already know. That's what you're telling me. You're telling me, as in culture, whatever we know about our life and our existence has been what has been pumped into your brain when you were a baby and you understood nothing. By the fairy tales that you watched, by the comics that you saw, by the language that your parents used, by the worry that they put on the table, by the concepts of the country at that time, that's who you are. And that is by living those rules. You're aligning yourself to that rule. And more or not, people are followers. More or less, people follow. Because they don't want to be the one standing out on this side over here looking like an idiot. They will say, listen, even if this is all going in the wrong direction, at least I'm like everyone else. You're not going to put me apart and say that there's something wrong with me. No one's going to finger somebody in here and say, well, you're an idiot. Because you're all the same. That's our culture. And that is a preconceived plan. You want to get heavy? You want to really think about it? What do you think the ultimate concept is for our human culture right now? To control and to dominate, so that you're powerless. That's what it is. It doesn't take a generation to do that. It takes a lot of generations to ultimately get that plan going. You get people off on the wrong track and they live like this for a long period of time, 200-300 years down the road, they're conditioned. It's so easy now to say, hey, listen, what do you know about life? Really, what do you know? Well, you might know a little bit more than your kids, because these kids will know nothing about it except what's in their laptop and iPad. They don't know how to spell anymore. They can't spell a word unless their phone is correcting it for it. Okay? And that was planned a long time ago, because then when this happens, then of course, we can kill you with food. It's not a problem. You don't even care. Really, hey, listen, put a chip in my arm. I'm fine with that. Do whatever you want to do. Control me, take away my freedoms. We think the way we think because we're conditioned to think so. And anyone who thinks differently and speaks differently is looked like a fool in their own times.
But you talk differently. I don't consider you a fool.
Okay, that's fine, but listen, I'll give you the story. Let's say Jesus Christ is a real story. What did they do to him? And because he said this, what's negative? What is the negative? Why do you have to look at it that way? But this is the way it is. But why do you have to think that? Well, because, I don't know. So someone says, no, don't think that way. Whatever you do is not to judge on anybody else. Your value in life is not based on what you look like or who you are in accordance to everybody else. Who you are, your value of your life is the value of your own life. You by yourself, nobody else, not your children, not your husband. That's not what makes who you are. And if that's what makes you who you are, then I feel better. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general, then that's sad. Because then that means that all you are is what's around you. And if you lose them all, then you're nothing. So somebody stood up and started preaching a different story. Love, respect, turn the cheek, do this, do that, respect each other. And they started using philosophy that people weren't listening to and understanding. And it was sounding good, it was making sense. And it was changing the people's perspective of the leaders that were in power. Well, they're trying to corrupt us. They're trying to take us down this way. What he's saying is making sense. If we just love each other and respect each other, blah, 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 blah. Well, fair enough, you're speaking too much. Crucify you. Stab you when you're dead. That's what it is. Anyone who thinks differently outside the box is always looked upon in a bad way.
That's why it was the first question I told you, fat weight against weight. Because when I try to explain that, people think I'm crazy.
Yeah, because they don't understand. They don't have education behind them.
Even family members, I need them.
Somebody was telling me here about clairvoyant stuff, like ghosts and spirits and all this kind of stuff and whatever. And they say here, if you go on TV and you start speaking about this kind of stuff, this country will look at you like you're an idiot. That's it. Okay. Is it true? I don't know. If you go to the United States, they have reality shows. Ghostbusters, this, that. They go into homes and paranormal activity. So what? They're all stupid over there too? How do you know? So it doesn't mean that because people think a certain way necessarily that it's wrong. Ultimately, in the very end of it all this is going to come down to your own thinking. There is really no negatives. I just totally disagree with that. There's pain, there's suffering, there's struggles and all of these things. But, it shouldn't stop you and it shouldn't form you to be negative. It should just be used to find the positive in everything. Otherwise, what's the outcome of your life going to be? You're going to sit here and we're going to come back to you and say, hey, listen, I feel better, I look better, I'm more energetic, I have all these great things, and I can't even appreciate it because the scale didn't go down by 2 kilos? That's semantics. The body's not going to go straight from 100 kilos to 40 kilos and non-stop ever stopping. It's going to go down, plateau for a while, you got to make some changes, go down a bit. That's how it goes in stages. Sorry?
What's up? Can it go up sometimes?
What's your weight? Well, it can go up in a day by 3 kilos by the food that you eat and the water that you hold. Your menstrual cycle will make you gain weight. Your stress will make you gain weight.
If you stress make you weight,
Of course, if you stress your body out, your body starts going in a negative direction. When cortisol starts to increase, it can do a lot of different things. It can do a lot of damage to a body. So peace of mind, yoga is a great thing. Relaxation, sitting down, meditating, these are things that are very, very good for you. Try to keep peace. Try to keep your life at an even balance. You have other questions? Should I keep reading or should I stop? How to start. How to start. That's one of them.
So, with regards to the weight, and is there some time that you don't lose the weight and but you're still getting thinner?
Well, do you notice that yourself? You notice that your clothes are looser but you're not losing weight?
At the moment, I'm not losing that
But you
much
notice your
weight,
clothes are
but the
losing?
clothes are,
So what does that tell you?
yeah.
What does that tell you?
So what's your rules?
Losing what?
It's
That's all it is, isn't it? Because you're losing something. Your clothes ain't going to fall off you unless you're cutting your skin off. So, obviously the fat is going away, and if fat is volume, and you're losing volume, your clothes are going to go down. If you're not losing weight, then it's because the muscle, the lean mass is getting heavier. Bone density, more water.
That's good.
So of course it's good. It's not weight that kills a person. You don't die at 130 kilos because you're 130 kilos. You die at 130 kilos because you're 55% body fat. But if you're 130 kilos and you're 10% body fat, you're not going to die of obesity. But a 40-kilo woman or man can die as well because they're malnourished and dehydrated and they don't eat at all. So they can have a heart attack just as much because an unnourished body, everything, all the systems start shutting down. The heart, the organs, everything. You get sick, and then succumb to some kind of illness because your immune system is completely crapped out and you fall apart. It has nothing to do with weight. It's this language that you're not hearing on a day-to-day basis. This is what changes you. You've been listening for 30 years, 40 years, other stuff. It's so easy to, how many times do people say it's your fault versus saying I'm sorry? It's so easy to pin the blame on everyone else. That's what you're used to. It's so easy to say, you know, what you're doing is wrong. You're not good. It's this, that. It's so easy to bring people down. It seems like it's the normal thing to do. How do you start? So you're obviously on a program and you don't know how to start. What's the first decision? What's the first thing that needs to happen to make it start? Does anybody know? What's the first thing?
The motivation.
Before the motivation.
Why the reason?
What?
The reason why you need to do it?
To prepare.
It's their mind. The first decision, the first step to get going is right here. Why? 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 That's the question. Why? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to start? What do you want? Why?
No one will come in.
No, but it's not my business. Why? In the end, why do you? Why did you lose 70 kilos? Why did you do all that? Why? What did you want? That's not my answer, is it? It's yours. Right? That's yours. Okay? So it's not mine. So if you don't make that question, you don't answer it. And if you don't answer it by doing the next things. First, it's a decision. Why do you want to change? Why? That's a question that you have to ask yourself, and you best know what it really is, and not be afraid of what it means to ask that question and then to follow it through. Don't ask a question, get an answer, and then do nothing about it. That's bad news. That's a waste of everything. Just you might as well stay ignorant. Why do you want to do it? Once you make a decision on why, then the next thing you need to do is you've got to take it into the first step. The first thing you do, change the way you eat. Start with food. And when you start with food, then start with other small little steps. And that in itself builds the reason even more so. It supports the reason. I don't know how many people I've put on programs where I get them walking 1 minute a day. Yeah? Why? Why? Because 1 minute is easy and simple. It's so stupid. It doesn't even make any logical sense to a logical person. Oddly enough, if they're really logical, then it would make sense. So you see what I just said? Because in truth, 1 minute a day is the very most logical thing you could do. Because logical meaning that you can do it and impossible for you to fail. It is impossible for you to fail for 60 seconds. Impossible. So, because it's easy and simple, you did 1 minute, tomorrow I'll do 2. Well, that's stupid too, but I'm going to do it. So that's easy. Before you know it, 1 by 1 by 1 by 1, 30 days later, you're doing 30. But you didn't realize it came up like that because it happened so gradually, so silly, all by saying, easy, simple, I can do more. Easy, simple, I can do more. Repeating the same language to your head, easy, simple, I can do more, turns your mind into, I can't do this, to this is so simple and easy, I need to do more. That's how you make things work. It's the language that you're hearing every single day. You know, relationships fall apart quite simply because at some point, the two of you let a crack come in. So something happens that affects the relationship, a crack. Now, if you're responsible, you immediately talk about it, deal with it, resolve it, and shut that crack right up. But if you don't shut that crack up, it gets a little bit wider, and a little bit wider, and a little bit wider. Before you know it, it's not a crack anymore, it's a creek. And then it's not a creek anymore, but it's opening up into the mouth of a river. And before you know it, it's a river. And now what happened is that the river came between you and you can't even get to each other anymore because it's so far apart. Now the relationship is doomed for death because it's almost impossible to cross over to the other person that understands the way they are. Did it have to be that way? No, because you let in a crack. In the same respect, in this, you can do the same thing for positive. I start with a crack, 1 minute, and you slowly wedge in a whole new lifestyle, which changes the complete way that you live your life for the future. Your life isn't over yet. Talk to me about all of this stuff in 20 years. And come back and tell me, was it worth it? Was it worth worrying about this right now? You're on a time limit. Is someone going to give you 5 million euros if you drop 5 kilos in the next 4 days? No. So what's the real urgency? Is it urgent to lose the weight, or is it more urgent to be healthy? Are you getting healthy? So then you're already coming to the conclusion of that part of the thing. So now maintain health, and like a plane, if it takes 13 hours to get to Australia, don't anticipate in the next 5 minutes you've done the 13 hours. Let it do its course. If you drive a car 100 miles an hour, it's only going to do 100 miles in an hour. It's not going to do any more. You understand? Does that help you to get started? I'll give you a few more minutes and then we'll go. How to stick to healthy eating during stressful times. So we're going to answer that. Best quick food choices when occasionally there's not much to prepare food beforehand. Anybody have that issue?
Yes.
Best quick food choices when occasionally there's not much time to prepare food. Who said yes? Well, first of all, do you have a day off? Do you have a day off? You have a Sunday off?
Off, you can say off. We have a family off.
Okay, but do you have an hour to cook? An hour?
Sometimes.
I mean, cooking. When you cook, do you just sit there at the food like this, or do you actually prepare and walk away and let it cook? Because if I was to say, you can do it that way, right? So, for example, you don't eat as much as me, but when I prepare my own meals like this, I would eat, let's say, for example, 42 meals a week, plus more meals. I do eight meals a day. But I do 42 meals. So, you know how hard it is to put into the oven 3 trays of chicken, which equals 42 breasts? I'm not saying to do this, I'm just giving you an example. I throw 42 chicken breasts in. Now, once I put them in, I'm not staring at the window for 45 minutes waiting for them to cook. So I can go do push-ups, I can go streaking down the street, it don't make a difference. At the same time, while I've done that, I get a rice cooker and I shove in 4 cups of dry uncooked rice, and I wait. I don't wait, look at it, I turn on, and it goes off by itself and stays warm. So I come back in 20 minutes, all that rice is up to here, it's done. And I use frozen veg. So, you know, then I don't worry about having to cut, dice, and this and that. I just get frozen veg because I hate veg anyway, and I think it's just as good as the stuff up there. And all of a sudden, 45 minutes later, I come back to the kitchen, and I have 42 containers on the counter, which takes a little bit of time to put 42 containers on the counter, but then I go like this with the rice. Chicken and veg. Put the lids on, freezer, 6, 12 in the fridge for today and tomorrow, I'm done. I did that in an hour.
But it's
I'm saying it's a principle. So you're saying, I want some quick things. So what? So make pancakes ahead of time. Make waffles with egg white and protein and make them ahead of time. Make some yogurts, or not yogurts, but some puddings with protein powder and berries or whatever and shove them in the fridge. You can do all this stuff ahead of time. You can make muffins at one time, healthy muffins. You can do lots of things and prepare these things. You can cut up vegetables and stick them in water and have them ready to go. You can get nuts, trail mix. You can make your own mix. You can do lots of different things that don't take a lot of time to prepare.
The shake, John, it's helpful.
The shake is helpful, but you can take a shake, for example, and just stick in a cup of oatmeal, for example, if you need the carbs of that meal. Stick in that, blend it in a second, or don't even blend it, just let it soak. Right? You understand what I'm saying? I mean, your preference and how you want to make things is up to you. But if I make pancakes and I put 10 or 20 of them on the, I bake potatoes, I'll stick like 8 of them in the microwave. I don't watch them cook. Once they're done, I forget all about them anyway, and then I go back in sometimes 3 hours later and I forgot they're in there and I just eat 2. Food is gasoline to the car. You know that, right?
was true, but I have a family, so I plan for the family and
Yes.
lost my plans for myself. So
But your food shouldn't be that much different than your
I mean,
family's.
what I do is I buy frozen chicken breasts, I put them in the right measure in plastic bags, I defrost them and grill them and pack them, sell them, that's it. But I got bored doing the same stuff for the whole
But you
month,
can,
so-
but, I mean, you can do lots of different things. I mean, you can go out and buy these big mushrooms like this and take your chicken and put it in a blender and blend it. You know, put low-fat mayonnaise, and all of a sudden you stuff up all these mushrooms with garlic and ground chicken with a bit of mayonnaise, and I have stuffed mushrooms. It's really, really nice.
And the marrows and the aubergines.
You can do lots of different things. You have to have an imagination. And you also have a recipe book that you can use.
They told me not to use it.
Well, after the first month, you can start using it now. Not a problem. You
I
can use it.
didn't even qualify for the cheat meal, so
How long has it been?
6 weeks.
Oh, you're doing good now. Have
But
a
I
cheat meal.
didn't lose the weight.
You didn't lose any weight? You didn't lose any size? Huh?
You know I'm not changing.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't do any exercises so that I had any injury.
So then there you go. So don't
But the
worry about it.
eating then was,
But how do you feel?
I feel better. I know
How's your
I'm
energy?
eating healthy.
How's your energy?
Well, I mean, I've always been energetic because with 2 young kids, you can't
But
not be. So
Yeah,
by
but you
the
would
end
know
of
it-
the day, I'm always knackered and I want to go to bed. So
so it's the same,
But
exactly the
the
same?
positive thing out of it is that I'm eating healthy. I used to drink a lot of Coke Zero, I want smooth food, so I'm learning to eat more healthy stuff.
Are you noticing the difference though? Or, I mean, do you actually stop to evaluate how you feel?
Not really.
Okay, well then that's a tough question. Just evaluate how you feel at night when you say you're knackered. Is it the same as you were knackered a month ago? Probably not. Probably not. If you're paying attention, you'll start to notice that your body is adjusting. And again, like I said, don't worry about time. You're not doing this for 16 weeks, for 20 weeks. You're doing it for the rest of your life. It's
No,
a,
no, this diet I want to keep.
it's not a
It's not
diet.
a diet, it's kind of
Healthy,
like
like
that.
that.
I mean, the fact that you're eating healthy, it's very, very important.
I guess I'll wrap it up like this. I think I think for a lot of people, adversity is it's a challenge like a mountain for everybody. Adversity is different for each person, so I think everyone has a challenge in front of them. And I think the challenge is different than everybody else's. Yours is different than mine. Yours is different than yours. Everyone has adversity. Your learning is about how you overcome your adversity. While you're overcoming your adversity, just to learn to respect and value who you are. And understand that the end-all, be-all is not the weight scale. It's not the color of your hair, the color of your eyes, or how well you fit in with everyone else. It's true culture does dictate, and people are cruel in that culture where they say, you're not like one of us, so you don't fit in. But that's bullying, and that's been going on forever. It's been going on forever. But you can't bully someone who is confident in themselves. You cannot. You can't beat anybody down who is self-confident and self-assured. And when you are self-confident and self-assured, and you know exactly who you are and what you're capable of doing, what your power really is, then nothing can stop you from gaining or achieving what it is that you want, except time. And that is everyone's issue this time. So if you approach things with a very positive attitude, you know, and expect the unexpected, you'll get it. Okay? I don't know if that helps you, but that's the best I got today. Okay? So thanks for coming. I appreciate it. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Well done, class.